Hello and welcome to Teacher Talk, the podcast for teachers who are lifers but still want to have a life. This is Jared, and as always, I'm joined by my partner, Johanna. Hey, Johanna.
Hey, Jared.
What are we going to talk about today?
Teaching in 8 hours.
Oh, this is a key focus of your plan. This is the meat of your whole philosophy, right?
Yes, teaching should be an 8-hour-a-week job, or 8 hour a day.
I agree, an 8-hour-a-week job. That's really what I'm looking for.
8-hour-a-weekday job.
Yeah, but this is impossible, they say.
Well, they say it's impossible to do and be good at it. And
Right.
if you're not good at teaching, it's like impossible to still be a teacher. I think people forget that. I feel like we should say that every time.
Forget what?
That if you're not a good teacher, it is really hard to still be a teacher. The job gets so impossible.
If you're not good at classroom management?
No, if the whole thing, if you're not good at it, you'll quit. You'll quit. Teachers have to become pretty extremely competent, if not excellent, or they will end up quitting because it's too hard.
Unless they're coaches.
No.
What? Does that not happen anymore?
Oh.
But a coach is a kind of teacher too.
They are a teacher.
They just kind of devote their skills and energy more towards a different thing sometimes.
I think that professional development expectations are a lot different now than they were when you were in school, and so maybe you shouldn't think about what school was like in the 80s.
But a lot of people listening to this are going to have the same impressions, so we might as well disabuse them.
Okay.
When I was in school, there were teachers who were mostly coaches, and they had basically sinecure jobs where they didn't really have much expectations in the classroom.
Got it.
So they were not pretty good teachers.
Got it.
They showed up for their workday and then they went and did the real thing, which was coach.
Oh, so so getting coaches is actually very hard because the demands of teaching are so much that teachers don't have the capacity to teach and coach.
Sure.
And so all the coaches I know who also happen to be teachers, and I also used to coach, you would not know that they were coaches. The amount of time and energy that they put into teaching is the same as anyone else.
That's what I perceived isn't tolerated anymore. It was never real to begin with.
I don't know, because I think it's not tolerated anymore, because, back when I first started teaching, I think there was more of that, but now the demands on a teacher and the accountability on a teacher is just too much. And that's why we have a lot of parents that have to coach.
Plus, there's some overlap in the just skills of coaching and teaching. If you were perhaps a little bit of a lazy teacher who devoted your energy to coaching, you still have some of the same, working with parents and working with kids and managing discipline, and the skills wouldn't overlap. It'd be hard, I think, to be a good coach, but a bad teacher, just as your skill set.
It's hard. It is hard to get people to coach. If they're willing to do it, they are a teacher who knows what they are doing in order to have the time and the energy to even coach.
So they're like you.
I suppose. Shall we get to it then?
How do you do it?
How do you do it? Okay, well, pretend you've done the work to create classroom management. That's being managed. It's not that you don't have a bad day, but you have systems and routines.
The
and
classroom
for the most part,
is running?
That's flowing. You're doing assessment in a way, and you have learners who are engaged in the learning in a way that they have the ownership over what they do, and you're able to collect data and see growth, all in what we've discussed in previous episodes. So let's pretend we kind of got those things on autopilot.
Okay.
You're going to have bad weeks, but for the most part, that's autopilot.
I'm making believe that I did the things you said to do, and it's working?
Right. Okay. So then that still won't get you to teaching
40 hours a week.
No. So here are the last little nuts and bolts.
Because you could be at 60 or something, right?
Oh, yeah. Before I did these things, I was probably, what do you think I worked? 60 hours a week?
Yeah, 60 something.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so then here were some of the final pieces of the puzzle. Number 1, you got to create a checklist. Now, people think, oh, I got checklists. But we got to create a Johanna style.
A good checklist.
A Johanna style checklist.
You can't just put down on a piece of paper, create checklist, and then have a checkbox next to it, and then check it, and then say, well, job's done. I created a checklist. It has to be a good checklist.
It has to be a good checklist. And what goes on your checklist? What goes on your checklist are things that you do every single day, morning and afternoon, as well as things you do weekly or monthly. And I include a checklist for what I have to do in each class. And I actually send mine off. My district happens to have a print shop, so mine gets turned into a pad. So I just rip off and start a new one every single day. But it seems silly to put things like turn on overhead projector, turn on speaker, put up overhead, wipe down tables, set down chairs, sharpen all pencils.
We can dispense with the silly things, though, because it just works, right?
When it causes you to make sure that every single day you don't get sidetracked. So if someone comes into your room and wants to talk, that's great. You just keep going on your checklist. If you in your head want to go talk or go get coffee, that's great. You can do it after your AM checklist is done. It just creates intense efficiency so that you have time to do the other big things.
A bunch of science says that this is correct.
Does it?
Yeah,
it proves
it's
me
the
right.
reason why multitasking doesn't actually work, because there's just a tremendous mental burden on shifting focus from a thing to another thing, and the checklist lets you not have to think about what the next step is.
Right, but teachers don't do it. I feel like in other jobs, in corporate jobs, you're more likely to see a standard checklist for the job.
We don't do it enough either,
but you just have to believe me. It will invent at least an hour in your day.
They don't have to believe it. They can go read the Checklist Manifesto by Atul Gawande.
That's right. That's where I got the idea from.
I mean, he'll convince you. If we could read the book on the podcast, then that would convince you too. Check out that book.
Yeah.
It's a short read.
You are right. That is what I read that then made me go like, I am going to checklist my world.
And the science is really strong. In a large part, he'll compare airline pilots, which live by checklists, to surgeons who thought they were above it, and the results are impressive. So
yes, simple things like I have on my checklist: email parents. I have it twice.
Yeah.
Right. And so when there is a behavior problem in my room, sometimes before I used to think about it over and over again after it already happened, but now I don't need to, because I'm not going to worry that I'm going to forget, because it's an item on my checklist that I'm going to do before I go home.
Yeah, unburden your mind with this simple step.
Yes. Okay.
Great. I buy in, and everyone will too if they read that book.
Yes. I bet people, maybe I should link it.
Yeah, put it in the podcast description notes.
I think though that I sell it on Teacher Pay Teacher.
Okay.
Anyway.
You sell his book on your teacher page?
No, I sell my checklist. People wanted it.
Oh, yeah, sell your checklist.
I started selling things on Teacher Pay Teacher because someone was selling my stuff for me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's ridiculous.
I mean, it's not ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. You shouldn't be charging $20 for something. That's ridiculous.
Okay. Check the podcast notes. There's probably links there.
Okay.
What's the next thing?
Anyway, collect data during class.
Collect data during class.
Yes.
Meaning don't
collect papers.
Oh, okay.
Don't do it. You're going to be an English teacher, a secondary English teacher, and you're going to be thinking right now, I have to collect papers? No, you do not. No, you do not.
At some point, they have to write a paper, right?
I used to be a debate coach.
Yeah.
How many cases did I bring home and read, Jared?
Not very many.
None. The answer is none.
I think once.
Okay, before I figured it out, maybe I did in the very beginning. No, work that into your system. Learning to edit is important. Have kids check in with you often. So if we're going to take the biggest doubter in the room, which is going to be the secondary English teacher.
Sure.
When I had kids write 4 or 5 page, essentially research papers for debate cases. Have them write approximately a paragraph at a time and then have them bring it to you and give the feedback live. It's less work for you. It's motivating for the student. And it causes them, it's better feedback, and it causes them to create a pace. They will naturally, I mean, every once in a while you'll get your line a little intense and you'll have to say, okay, go ahead and go on and write the next paragraph and come back up in a minute. Or I could have sticks, so I'd have sticks with the kids' names on it. They could leave their stick and that would let me know that I need to check in with them. You can have a take a number system so the kids know that you'll be calling up a number so that they can go back and work. But if you're using class time to give feedback rather than your personal time, it's a huge time saver. Elementary level.
So largely speaking, you're not taking stuff home and grading.
No.
And then returning feedback.
When was the last time you saw me take something home to grade?
I don't know if I have.
Right. I used to before I figured this out. And it used to be I would try to grade like first periods during second periods.
Yeah.
No. If a kid's taking a test, do it live. Do it live. During the test.
We'll write it and we'll do it live.
So rather than have it be like you would have a test packet stapled together, you can have
one sheet at a time.
One sheet at a time, and then you keep it. They're not taking those answers back to their seat. It does, like, so I actually pushed this to the level where I had kids pick the day they test. That's a whole nother podcast because I didn't have everybody test on the same day. Figuring out that a kid is failing a test during page 1.
It's way more valuable.
More valuable than handing back a test with an F on it.
Okay.
Like, I'm not saying give them the answers. It's a test. I'm just saying now is the time where you can get that kid to create a plan. They might call it in then and be like, I'm failing. Okay, so which parent shall we call? How shall we get you the help? Whatever. Theoretically, you should be figuring out they're going to fail the test before it happened. But, so.
This makes sense. I think it makes sense in a lot of contexts, too. That
so much less work.
Business stuff should probably be run like that more. We have a culture, I think, generally of, well, I'm going to do my best to make a completed thing, and then I'm going to turn it in, and everyone's going to see how great it is. And I don't want them to see my draft. I don't want them to see I want to be accountable for my total product.
Yes.
My complete work, my best polished effort. And it's not a real good way to build or design or complete things, I think.
Right. And this is how you can get peers involved, too. I mean, this is, if you're in the actual learning process, you don't have to be the one giving the feedback. But grade, collect data during class.
Smart.
Okay, we can make a whole podcast about how to do that.
We maybe will.
The next one is clean. Clean.
What does that mean?
If your world is chaos, go ahead and take a Saturday and go in and clean. Clean it up. If you're on a cart, if you're in a classroom, if you're in multiple classrooms, people have to have clean spaces in order to be able to work 40 hours a week. And then you have to teach your kids how to keep it clean, how to keep it organized. Create systems for everything. Don't have a stack it on my desk situation. In fact, I don't even do a teacher desk. That's a whole nother podcast. We should write these things down so I remember. Get rid of your teacher desk.
It is being recorded. We could always go back and listen to it.
Yeah. Clean it up.
Do you use your label maker type things in your classroom like you do at home, like a crazy person?
Yeah, so Jared is referring to the fact that if you were to open our kitchen cabinets,
this is like there's little label maker labels that say dishes, glasses, spoons, forks, like every coffee maker.
Yes, so I do kind of sometimes treat you like my students, in which case when you used to unload the dishwasher, half the dishwasher components would be left out on the counter because you said you didn't know where they went.
Or there wasn't enough room.
Yes. So instead, I cleaned and then I labeled it, and now you never leave things on the counter wondering where they go. Because
even it's sort of like the checklist. Even though you don't think you need to have a label about where things go, it just makes it takes any thought out of it, and it just gets done more consistently and easier.
Yes. So our whole house is labeled.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Band-Aids.
Yeah.
Labeled. I use sticky notes and laminated things. I use those sticky notes that it's all sticky on the entire back. I feel like this is a whole nother podcast to discuss how I clean my room, but clean it up and then teach the kids how to keep it clean, and don't get angry about that.
This has a residue of design that makes everything easier then.
If you teach at the secondary, create time in the schedule for kids to get their world organized before they leave your room. Create time in the schedule for them to wipe down their desks so they're not spreading their disease. Elementary level kids love to clean. They love to clean more than life itself. It is crazy how much they love to clean. So that one's simple. All you have to do is create the routines and the time. They love more than anything to put their packets back away so that all the bindings on one side and the names all face a certain way.
Sure.
And so they're, just trust me. Why are you smiling at me?
No, because I can visualize that.
Even though our kids at home, I'm constant.
At home, they don't.
No, but at school, they love it.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's next?
Okay. Get yourself 1 week ahead, like with copies and any of that stuff. That way, all the time that you have with the checklist, you're always planning for the following week. I like to actually go a month out, but start with a week. And then that will make it a part of your checklist that have a due date that you have to have everything for the next week done by.
Why does that help reduce the total amount of time that I'm working as opposed to just distributing time? Am I not just going to be doing the exact same total amount of work except 1 week ahead?
So teachers tend to work in 5 or 10-minute chunks because they don't have long chunks of time to think. And that slows them down. They're constantly starting something or stopping something or running to get the copies that they need for the afternoon, or all of those things eat up time.
So how does being ahead help then?
You won't be rushed while you're thinking. You won't be doing thinking on your feet. And that will cause you to be more organized and more purposeful.
You can prioritize tasks according to how much time you have and not flip back and forth between things as they're needed. Which, just like we talked about with the checklist, anytime you shift gears in your mind, you're chewing up a lot more resources of mental energy and time than you think you are.
Correct.
Okay. It's
hard. You would think that would be natural for teachers to think that way, and they try. They might come in on a weekend, and I see it. I see it all the time. The teacher shows up at 5 a.m. and leaves at 5 p.m. And what would that be, 24?
24.
24 hours in a weekend, and they'll get themselves cut up, and then a month later they're doing it again. Because you can't do that in isolation. You have to have the checklist and all those other things.
Because it's hard to stay motivated to do things until you need them done.
Yeah.
But the motivation needs to be, I want to live a life where I'm teaching 40 hours a week and not more than that. And so this is the work I need to do to be able to live like that instead of how I am.
Right. So, but I go in a week early before school starts, before I'm officially required to be there, and I just put that time in.
Yeah.
And then I never really do. I'm trying to think of when I work extra beyond that.
Not very much.
Next and last is be mean. Drive and demand an agenda.
Okay.
So you do meetings a lot at your work?
Yep. Everyone likes meetings.
Okay. Do you have like a purpose, or explain to me a corporate meeting? Bring me in.
There's different kinds.
Okay.
There's like FYI type meetings where someone knows something and they want everyone else to know it too. And so you get invited to a thing while they go through a thing, and then now everyone knows, so they can't complain about not knowing it. There's like collaboration type meetings where like we don't know what we want to do, but we're going to decide together what to do. Those are kind of the two big ones. And then there's kind of like just team type meetings where we get together to talk about what I'm doing and what you're doing, and just kind of be apprised of how things are going as a group.
And then how do you know what to discuss? Is there like an agenda? Is there a person in charge of keeping you on track? How does that work?
Those team ones tend to be agendaless by design, because it's more of a free-for-all type thing of peers able to share what they know is important to others and not. Even those tend to expand a little bit to fill the time. As you know, all meetings will like water expand to fit their container. Other ones should have it. The FI ones especially should have agendas so that people can know whether the information is something they actually care about or not. We're not always disciplined with the agenda thing, and even when there's a specific agenda, the meetings tend to always take exactly as long as they're scheduled for.
Right.
So
in teacher land, our meetings do the opposite. Our meetings need 2 or 3 hours, and we have 20 minutes. So it's hard because, like, as an adult, you want to take the first 5 minutes or 10 minutes and just talk to another adult, because you don't talk to adults during the day. And then everything that the meeting was supposed to do, now you don't have time for it, and you need to go pick up your kids.
There's
or
no
the
time
bell's
for ice
gonna
breaking.
ring. No, there's no time. And same is true, like, if you just have a teacher stop by your room, or if you're a teacher who just stops. You know, I try and not do things by email. I try and go and visit people. And you'll look at the clock. I'll look at the clock, and I'll say, this will be 3 minutes. And then 7 minutes goes by, and I'm like, ooh, okay, I gotta walk out. I just took too much time. Making sure, being willing to say, we gotta move on. Be willing to say, if there's not a purpose for the meeting,
we need to not have it.
we need to not have it, is important. Don't put yourself in a situation where you're signing up to go to meetings that don't have a purpose.
There's a joke on The Simpsons that I can't stop thinking about.
Okay, tell us.
When Bart has the focus in and he gets all, like, super efficient and stuff.
Yeah.
And at one point he's talking to Lisa, and then he stands up, and then she, like, kind of makes a face and says, "Are you standing up to get me to leave?" And he goes, "It's in the book." And then she goes, "Hey, I am not a time burglar." But that's it, right? It kind of is someone came to talk to you, you don't have time for it, so you stand up, and that's a signal for them to leave.
Oh, I just have my checklist.
Yeah.
If people come to visit me, I say, come on, sit down. And then I do my checklist.
No time burglars.
No. And then when my checklist is done, generally whatever's, you know, like before the checklist, I would sit down too. But now I've got my checklist. PLC meetings and all those types of things, be willing to say, what is our agenda? Why are we meeting? And then be willing to be the person that says, we need to get going.
Okay.
It might look mean, but do you want to work 40 hours a week and maybe be a little seen as a little mean? Or do you want to work 50, 60-hour weeks, but everyone likes you?
I mean, it's not too mean, but you're acting like your time is valuable.
I'm acting
There's
like
nothing wrong with
everyone's
that.
time
Yeah.
is valuable.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe everyone thinks I'm mean. Well, I guess I'm telling you to be mean.
There's plenty of people that will be happy that someone else is being, quote, mean then, because you're not the only one in that meeting that wishes we would get it taken care of, or that wishes it would end when we're done with things to talk about or stuff like that, right? So
Yes.
even if some people think it's a little mean, other people are going to be grateful that you're standing up and acting like their time is valuable.
Okay.
It ought to at least balance out, I think.
All right. Well, with that, I think we're ready for you to figure out a
Recapping.
recap.
We're recapping. Checklist.
Yes.
Do you have a manifesto? No, you don't, but someone does, and you agree with it. The checklist of just things you're going to think are stupid, that you don't need to be told to remember, but write them down anyway, and you'll be surprised at how much time and mental energy that saves of what you need to do to get ready to run your classroom day to day.
Correct. It will also figure out, I'm adding things, how to outsource.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Like, I figured out things I can put on the students or create a position that students apply for, because
this specific task is clearly delegatable.
yes. Or I have kids that like to spend time in my room, and they love to do my checklist with me. They know about the checklist. They ask what's on it and like to do it. So
Yeah.
those kids that come 10 minutes early or want to stay 10 minutes late, they'll do that checklist with you.
One of the things of good leadership is never do yourself what you can get someone else to do just as well.
Ooh, sweet.
Collect data during class.
Yes, I feel like this is going to have to be a separate podcast.
Okay, we'll do it.
Yeah, we'll
But
do it.
you save so much time and actually do better
the kids do better. Your grades are better.
By
The effort in class, the motivation is better.
don't fill out the math homework or the worksheets or the writing assignment. Take it home, spend all night grading it, and then hand back a paper with red ink on it.
Or the smiley face that they then throw away. Don't do that.
Either way, it's more work for you and it's less effective for them. Figure out a way to do it in the class. Listen to the future podcast where Johanna tells you how to do it in the class and then do that. It'll save a ton of time. And it's a big thing because when you talk about teachers doing work outside of class, a lot of the times you hear them complain about grading, right?
Correct.
I had to spend all night grading.
Correct.
And you don't have to.
No.
Step 3, clean.
Yes.
You know what they say?
I need to go do this one.
Empty desk, empty mind. No, clean desk, clean mind.
Not just clean storage closet, clean cart, clean whatever your classroom is. Or I used to have a situation where I had 3 classrooms. It's not fun, but you need to clean it all up.
And then have a system in place where the kids help you keep it clean.
Yes.
Step 4, get a week ahead.
Correct.
Because
full week.
Otherwise your ability to focus and prioritize gets all wrecked by immediate demands of things, and it winds up wasting a lot more time than you think it does.
Yes, you start to feel scattered and you don't even realize how it happened. And that drowning feeling causes panic that then causes other bad things to happen.
Well, I think even besides feeling bad, it's also you're less able to efficiently allocate your mental resources.
Or to ask for help.
Yeah.
If you know you need help.
And then be mean, which is not really be mean, but act like your time is valuable, act like everyone's time is valuable. Assert that the meeting should follow the agenda, that you shouldn't have agendaless meetings, and focus on your tasks when someone is visiting.
Yes, when someone even when someone stops by, ask them why they're stopping by. Like, I'm not saying you have to have an agenda in advance. I have meetings, weekly meetings, where we set the agenda. That's the first thing we do. And that's kind of the icebreaker is what do we need to talk about and get done? You know, even with my students, when we have 25 minutes of work time, I say, so what is your goal? What are you personally going to accomplish? Right? Setting agendas and purpose for time, even if it's immediately before, helps to focus everyone and make sure that the thing gets done.
Sure. All smart stuff, I think.
Okay.
I'm looking forward to the data during class thing.
I know. I'm gonna write it up right after this.
Thank you, Johanna.
Thank you, Jared.
Teacher Talk, the podcast for teachers who are lifers but still want to have a life.